Fellas, I'm going to be ranking every single current UFC champion by who has the least aura and who has the most aura. I'm breaking it down in 4 different tiers from no aura, so they've genuinely got no aura. If they were to walk into a room, nobody would tell. And the maximum aura, which is where you're kind of intimidated watching these guys just fight. So I'm ranking all the champions. Let me know if you'd agree. Starting off with the fighter that I've gone with the least amount of aura, or the champion, I guess. I've gone with Sean O'Malley. Now, Sean O'Malley, the reason I've gone with no aura is because he's such a talented fighter, right? He's got all these knockouts on his resume. He's a dangerous fighter, just knocked out Sterling, and he's a problem for a lot of people in the division. But I can't imagine looking across the octagon and seeing Sean O'Malley and being intimidated. The way he looks, he kind of looks like someone who, you know, go to the skate park on a Saturday and sell drugs the same day. He kind of looks like a crackhead YouTuber with his frizzy hair and everything. And even at the press conference, he doesn't have good trash talk. He's terrible on the mic. As a fighter, he's amazing, right? He's got like I said, he's got all these knockouts on his record, great takedown defense, great striker, and I do think he's a problem for a lot of people in the bantamweight division, but he's just got no aura about him. If Sean O'Malley was to walk in the room, and I didn't know this guy was a fighter, I'd just assume he was like a fan. I'd assume he was like a Twitch streamer by looking at him. So I'm going Sean O'Malley last. No aura about him. Great fighter, but I can't imagine anyone being intimidated by this guy. Even Marlon Vera has more like aura. Pretty much everyone in the bantamweight division. Marab, like I said, Marlon Vera, even Umar Nurmagomedov, who's not even like in the top 10 rankings yet. Yeah, O'Malley, not much aura, but the fact that he's such a good fighter kind of makes up for it. But again, you can also say that the fact he's such a good fighter and also has no aura is worse. So in last place, I'm going Sean O'Malley with no aura. And for the next fighter in no aura, I've gone Leon Edwards. I mean, the first reason is it's not like he's going out there and starching opponents. Like, when you see a fighter like Alex Pereira go out and sleep everyone, and I'm going to be comparing Leon to Pereira a lot, when you see guys like Pereira go out there and batter people, it kind of, you know, there's a lot of intimidation sinking in. Leon Edwards, not saying he's a bad fighter, and I'm not saying he's an easy guy to beat, but he hasn't got that type of like style where he's just going out there and finishing people. A lot of his fights do end in decision, and I guess that can kind of take away from the intimidation. And the next reason is he's a quiet guy. Leon Edwards is a quiet guy, but it's not quiet like Alex Pereira. Like, when Leon Edwards isn't speaking, it's not like he's got this massive stoic energy around him. When Leon's not speaking, the reason he's not speaking is because every time he does speak, he's just mumbling all over the place. Nobody can understand what he's saying. And overall, he's just not really an intimidating guy. Like, even, listen, I'm not saying I'm not trying to take away his performance from Colby Covington, but for Colby Covington to say, you know, to go that low and say something about his father, and then for Leon, ironically, to go out there and get another decision win. And I'm not saying he had to finish it or he should have finished him, because like I said, he did break apart Colby Covington. But I don't know, Leon Edwards, he just doesn't have that intimidation. He's a quiet guy, doesn't really speak too much. But again, if Leon Edwards was to walk in a room, I just can't imagine him having that kind of like that feeling that, you know, an absolute champion just walked in the room. So I'm going to go Leon Edwards and Sean O'Malley for guys that have, in my opinion, no aura. Now we're on to the next tier, which is, you know, low/some aura. So they've got some aura about them, but it's not like, you know, next level. So first I've gone with Dricus du Plessis. Now, one thing I will say about Dricus du Plessis is he does mean business. He's not one of these guys that are there to mess around or muck about at press conferences. You can see every time he grabs a mic, he's there for business. He wants to become a middleweight champion. He's done that. He wants to defend in Africa. He wants to defeat Israel Adesanya. He means business, and he does, you know, that's what he does every single time he fights. Undefeated in the UFC. A solid resume as well. But the reason I've put him this low is because the guy goes life and death in every fight. The way he speaks on the mic, you'd expect him to be some sort of villain. He kind of reminds me of like a villain in like a James Bond movie. But you watch him fight, and it looks like he's never trained past one round. I know his stamina's improved in his past 2 fights. I mean, he has just gone 5 rounds with Strickland and beat him. But the way that Dricus fights, it's like he's fighting life and death. He did that against Darren Till, Brad Tavares, Derek Brunson. Every single fight, the Whittaker one ended pretty quickly, and I guess in the last few rounds against Strickland. So the fact that he kind of just looks goofy in his fights, not saying he's a bad fighter. Like I said, when I say these guys have no aura, I'm not saying they're bad fighters. I mean, they're champions of their division, so they're obviously good, good fighters. But I'm gonna go Dricus. Means business, so he's got some form of aura about him, and I wouldn't want to mess around this guy, but again, goes life and death in every fight. Looks like he doesn't have the stamina to go past 3 rounds, so I'm going to put Dricus du Plessis in kind of low tier aura. And then I've also gone Pantoja. Now, Pantoja, again, he's a fighter that definitely has some aura about him. He just comes to scrap. He doesn't say much, and he has a good story about him. There's nothing that bad I can say about him. It's not like he's known for getting these, terrible, boring fights. He comes there to scrap. He means business, and to be honest, I can't see any flyweight in the world beating Pantoja, but I don't know. I wouldn't say when Pantoja walks in the room, again, I know I've said this about 5 times already, but when Pantoja walks in the room, or when you're facing off with Pantoja, I can't imagine being terrified of the guy. Maybe it's because he's a flyweight, and I can't imagine much flyweights in the UFC having aura because they're so small. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe he's just too low in too low of a weight class, but Pantoja comes to scrap. He has a good story behind him. Obviously, he works hard and he doesn't really say much, but yeah, he just reminds me more of a quiet guy who comes to scrap, but not really a guy who, has aura, a bunch of energy coming off him. So I'm going to go Pantoja in low tier aura. Then I've gone with Ilia Topuria. Topuria, he does have that walk in the room energy. When Ilia Topuria walks in the room with that belt, you can kind of tell, he's done all this stuff. And the one thing I want to say about Topuria as well is he speaks things into existence. There's nothing more there's nothing that brings an atmosphere more than speaking something into an existence and then doing it. Kind of like McGregor back in the day. He said he's going to go out there and knock out Volkanovski, which no one has ever done in the featherweight division. No one believed him, and then he went out there and did just that against Volkanovski. And Topuria's just got that energy. He's a fairly quiet guy, but at this time, I won't say he's a quiet guy, actually. He's a pretty loudmouth guy, but I don't know. He kind of reminds me of a villain like Dricus du Plessis, but instead of going life and death in every fight, he's going out there and starching people. He beats the shit out of guys like Josh Emmett. He knocks out Volkanovski, and because his performances are so good, and he's also got so much confidence to back him up, Topuria's definitely got a lot of aura. So I'm going to say that Ilia Topuria's in the mid-tier aura. And then I've also gone with Islam as well. Yeah, Islam Makhachev, again, similar to Topuria, he doesn't say much, just Islam Makhachev, but I just can't imagine fighting Islam Makhachev and expecting to win. This guy's he looks pretty much unbeatable. He's an S-tier wrestler. His striking's improving. He's pretty much shown 0 weaknesses in his UFC career. I just can't imagine seeing Islam Makhachev stood across from me in the octagon and expecting to beat the guy. For that reason alone, he's got a lot of aura. I wouldn't say he's like a villain like Ilia Topuria or Dricus du Plessis, where he gives off this like villain energy, but he just kind of gives off the energy that he's unbeatable. He's not like, I just can't see how you can beat this guy. I wouldn't like my odds if I stood across the octagon, even if you're just a Gaethje or an Oliveira or an Arman Sarukian. If you've seen Islam Makhachev, the most well-rounded fighter in the UFC, the best fighter in the UFC, I think that alone pushes Islam Makhachev to have a lot of aura about him. So I'm going to go in it with Islam Makhachev in the same tier as Topuria here. And then finally, we've got maximum aura. These are fighters that it would be an absolute nightmare to fight. Fighters who you kind of want to be intimidated by just watching them at home. And the first fighter I've gone with is Jon Jones. The reason I've gone Jon Jones is because he's one of the few fighters in the UFC, like Sean Strickland, who would actually kill you. He's a psychopath. Jon Jones is a psychopath. I mean, his criminal record speaks for himself. I'm not going to get into the details of that. But yeah, Jon Jones just gives off the energy that he would actually kill you. And I know he said it to Daniel Cormier as well. He doesn't just look like a fighter. He doesn't give off the energy that he wants to beat you in the octagon. He looks like he wants to take your soul. And his performances say that as well. You look at him in his prime at light heavyweight, how he was just demolishing everyone, beating strikers when it came to striking, out-grappling grapplers. That's what Jon Jones does. He looks like he wants to kill you. He's never been beaten as well, which I guess definitely adds a lot of, kind of intimidation to his name. And then to go out there as well, moving up to heavyweight to fight Cyril Gane, and then to finish him that quickly. Jon Jones definitely has some of the most aura in UFC history. He's a psychopath, not even in the octagon, outside of the octagon as well. Like he looks like a born killer. So I'm going with Jon Jones for maximum aura. And at the top of this list, the UFC champion that I believe has the most aura right now is Alex Pereira. He's one of the only fighters that kind of not like intimidates me. I'm not going to say it like that because that's kind of weird, but just watching Alex Pereira walk out, similar to Makhachev, I can't imagine fighting Alex Pereira. Even if you were a guy like Tom Aspinall, who's got all the tools to beat a Pereira, or someone like Ankalaev, who you've definitely got what it takes to beat Pereira, I can't imagine Alex Pereira walking out, doing his whole entrance, facing you, you know, giving that iconic stare down across the octagon, and you're not intimidated somewhat. The guy's probably the most intimidating fighter in the UFC. His performances back it up as well. The fact that he can sleep you so quickly like he did to Sean Strickland, the fact that he was able to end Adesanya's middleweight streak, everything about Pereira, and he's stoic as well. A lot of, you know, fighters, like I said with Leon Edwards, they're quiet, but they're not really, you don't really give off any energy. They're not stoic. Alex Pereira is stoic. He has few words, but he just still gives off a lot of energy. Like, even at the press conferences, when you kind of see all the fighters in the back at the press conference, they're all talking, and then you've got Pereira who's just saying nothing, and he still has more energy, you know, more aura than any of those guys. So, for maximum aura, I've gone Alex Pereira. But yeah, that's me ranking every UFC champion by who has the most aura and who has the least aura. Let me know if you'd agree. I think this is a pretty solid list. I don't think, you know, there's any, you know, significant changes that could be made to this list. But let me know if you change anything around. Yeah, that's my aura list. Thank you for watching.